Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. It's the season, isn't it? We're taking a look back at, it's about a year, we're in that season, a season for accounting. And so we're getting all sorts of reviews, impressions, comments, opinions on 1 year of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. So today, that's where we're going to be. And our guest this morning is joining us from our Abuja studios, Otumba Segun Showunmi. Otumba Showunmi is a political affairs analyst and PDP stakeholder. Good morning to you, Otumba.
And how are you feeling the 1 year in office booze?
Yeah. Okay, I can see. That's why you're as bright as that. A year in office, and I can see your bright countenance. So, I guess there might be a lot to talk about. Maybe why don't we start off by, it's been quite a difficult year globally. It's not just in Nigeria or West Africa. It's been quite a challenging year. So maybe we should start off with, your impression concerning ourselves with home, meaning Nigeria. And in the time, how well do you think the president and his team, of course, have handled affairs?
Okay, thank you, Yori. First of all, let me say congratulations to the president and his team. And congratulations to Nigeria that we've had 25 years of steady democracy. I have spent the last 2 weeks really thinking about the country, asking myself one key question. What exactly is the point of view, the view or the mind by which a patriotic Nigerian that is not in the president's party ought to use to review the country and even his efforts? And the more I followed that trajectory, the more sober I become. I'm sober because I first of all started looking at 25 years that we've been in democracy and looking at what are the gains we've made, what has happened to our people, and then looking at the last 9 years, of 8 years of APC and of President Buhari, and then his own year, then taking a look at all the policy attempts, the directions we wanted to go, the kinds of things that they are saying, the emotions of the people in the country, the circumstance of the global economic tanking as a result of all of the COVID eras and all that, the policy direction, and what can we do to make it better? And I will say, without apologies to anybody, that if I accept that he met the type of economy he met, then I will say, okay, I can give him a pass mark for courage. Most men will run out of that office immediately they got in if they found out exactly just how things were. You didn't have money. We had over borrowed. We had no headroom even for major negotiations. We were padding and backing our currency with monies we didn't have. We had not created the infrastructure that can, stimulate the growth the way we want. Our citizens are naturally and as they should be in a hurry, because unfortunately the Nigerian citizen has been in a perpetual state of, give us time, almost since 1976. And then I said to myself that, okay, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I get it. I get where you're trying to go, but let me now tell you some of the things that I think we now need to review properly.
Sure.
The first is, what makes the citizens of Nigeria feel so unpleased with their government? Government come, government go, government come, government go. I think we have gotten to a point now where we must put the people of our country, the poor people of our country, the mass of the people of our country as the centerpiece of our policy direction and planning. And when I say that, I mean that before we go on any big avant-garde feel-good projects and all of that, we should ask ourselves that, how will the Nigerian even be impacted by this project? That's one. The second thing I want to say to him frontally is that I am convinced, and nobody can shift me from that, he has not put together the best team I think he could have put together if he had allowed himself more robustness of, other people's contributing people of, competence. I look at his ministerial press review for 1 year. I can say, okay, I get where some of them are going, but I can also tell you that there are a few of them that need to go like immediately. If your economy is the kind of economy he has inherited, let's just save him the need to be blaming him for things he could not have been directly influencing. And then, for whatever reasons, because the argument on all sides was the same, we don't want subsidy, and he just took it out the first day, I would have expected that his Minister of Agriculture, more than anybody else, would have been very, very, very serious about the work. I know for a fact that they've not even done enough with the African Development Bank facility of 150 billion that they got that was supposed to give them 3 seasons of farming, 1 season of wet, 1 season of dry, 1 season of wet. I know they've only done 1 season and they didn't do much with the dry season farming, which would have given them more opportunity to look at other products like cassava, maize, and what have you. I know they've done a little bit on grain, and I would say that if you have floated the currency with its own consequence, if you have removed subsidy, and that means obviously passing the burden of higher cost to the citizen, you ought to know that your greatest next major assignment is making sure that you can rack up food production so that you can help domestic consumption. In that regard, his Minister of Agriculture doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to go. In terms of his aviation, because I've heard that one talked to a lot, I think that with due respect to him, I get the energy with which he wants to make things happen. But I think with due respect, Festus Keyamo needs to really begin to ask himself that what is the best tone of voice of a minister to communicate in an economy and in a space that people are generally very angry. You can't come and be saying, oh, Air Nigeria, because you have to ask yourself, that Air Nigeria policy you're talking about is actually the policy of your APC government. And so even if you want to say we're not continuing it, your tone of voice must not be such that you are trying to show that a cabinet that you were even part of, because you're a minister of state in that cabinet, you're trying to show that, okay, you guys are there now, and that can be a little bit off-putting. The other thing that I think they need to worry about is that I've become convinced that they're not spending enough money on national orientation. When you look at our country, wait, 1 second, let me just land here, Yori. You have to ask yourself in this country that,
I didn't want to.
Yeah, you want to ask yourself, thank you. You want to ask yourself a question in this country. Everything considered, why will more money be going to local governments? More money will be going to the governors at subnational level, and the governors themselves and local government administrators don't get the fact that if they don't carry their own part of the responsibility, it's too much to put everything on the head of just one man in Abuja who's far away. Part of the reason why they get more money is so that they can also fix the issues in their area. And all of them, federal and state and local government, cannot be running on an avant-garde set of projects, or we're going to do infrastructure, which basically is just an opportunity for them to skin money off the people, when none of them is even saying, my responsibility is pro-poor people, pro-prop things that people can impact now. There's no law that says states cannot be making big investment in agriculture, even for the purposes of creating the food that their own people eat. And then the people on their own end. I'm not happy with especially the big political voices, and I don't want to really get angry with them and mention their names. It is not the duty of a leader or a potential leader to look at all issues of governance, not reviewing it and say, okay, why did he do this? Just coming onto the table every day to kind of like incite the people, make them angry, talk a lot of rubbish that even if you give them the responsibility, they can't articulate a clever way out, use cliches to just make a difficult situation even bad. And in that regard, I just say we have come to the point where I expect the president to now begin to say, how do we review the democratic process and procedure that throws up leaders in our country? Because the argument is that shall a political party or a political process that is not efficiently administered is not ideologically stimulating, shall it be able to throw up leaders that can do better? And why do you think even the opposition party, PDP inclusive, and even the Labour Party, why do you think they are laboring so hard to be able to even engage this government intellectually and in a way that people say, okay, these guys are not just hating the country, they don't just wish the country bad, they know what they're saying. I'll tell you why. Because all of them were ideologically on the same page. They were ideologically on the same page that we're going to remove subsidy, ideologically on the same page that we're going to float the currency, ideologically on the same page we're going to sell refinery, ideologically on the same page that we're going to take money from pension to fund infrastructure. And so there's really not much to choose between 6 and half a dozen, really. And you can't be so angry if you didn't get, whether you consider it fraud or not, I don't care. If you are not the president at this time, you can't be so angry when you see somebody implementing the kinds of policies you said you were going to implement. So I think that if we're not able to accept the reality that whatever challenge we're facing, there will be room for improvement. Human activities, personal attitude, character, tone of voice, your secrecy will impact governance anyway, because the human beings are different. We cannot be a nation that will be 25 years in democracy and just be telling ourselves that nothing is working. Because that was how we said nothing was working for Jonathan. And then we started liking Jonathan when Buhari came. Then you people said, you don't like Buhari. And now some of you, I hear the voices of people saying they now like Buhari. And now you're suddenly saying Bola Tinubu is whatever you're saying he is. And I know that tomorrow, if we're not even careful, and we still start having this conversation the way I want us to have it now, we're going to still come back and start saying we want Bola Tinubu. So after 25 years of self-rule, we need to hold the brakes. We need to let the younger people in the country understand that you don't talk without, first of all, research. And that even if you have a strong view that you want to put on the table, you must also be sensitive to the fact that this is a multidimensional, multi-poverty environment. This is a country that has a lot of language and a lot of tribes. This is a country that of ethnicity, different religion. So you need to generally say, Nigerians, let us calm down. Whether we like it or not, we're stuck with a 4-year tenure because we agreed to democracy and we must stick with it. And that does not mean that we will not have enough time to say, okay, bring all of your scoreboard, let us see. I believe that the president, I want to believe him, let me put it this way, that when he said the worst is over and that now the country has gotten out of the very deep end, and therefore I want to charge him, I charge Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have to recognize that a nation of over 220 million people cannot be bleeding in all of the corners of the nation when whatever it is that you say you are building or whatever policy you say you are running is actually affecting us. And one of the big things that is affecting us, which I wish he can legislate and say, never again will we do this in this country, is the devaluation of our currency. You know why? Because when you devalue the currency with the reckless abandon at which we have been doing it over the years since the Babangida regime, what you do is that you destroy the savings of the people of the country. And any nation that cannot rack up enough savings, steady savings that can retain the value of the monies that people have saved, you won't have enough money to put into investment in your country. And if you are going to be looking to foreign investors, it's like saying you want mercenaries to come and help you build your country. You have to also understand that for every time foreign investors bring in money, either to your stock or to your, real sector or your manufacturing, they are also going to want to do capital reparation because they've come here for profit. But we now need to look for a country. We need to figure out how to make sure this is a country that works for the people of this country. That's my opening comment.
Well, it's quite a full one, Segun, and